the chances. Heather Dinich's projected CPS rankings. Oregon 1, Texas 2, Penn State. Oh, I did not see it. Hold on. Can I go back? No, I cannot. Shoot, I just missed her rankings. Anyways, look. Unfortunately, the chances of the host of this YouTube channel, Georgia 5, Ohio State 6, Tennessee 7, SMU 8, Indiana 9, Boise State 10, Miami 11, Alabama 12. Heather Dinich has Miami ahead of Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina. I agree with Heather Dinich. Now, I would have South Carolina ahead of Ole Miss and Alabama, but whatever. Look, I'm afraid, I am very afraid that Heather Dinich and the fat guy from Minnesota is going to be wrong. We should be right, but we're going to be wrong. I got a very bad feeling about this. The chances of your host going nuclear tonight is extremely high. No disrespect at all to Alabama. But again, you cannot lose to Vanderbilt. You can, You can lose to Vanderbilt and still make the playoffs. No question about it. You can have 2 losses in the SEC conference, and one of those losses being against Vanderbilt, and you can still make the playoffs. You can, if you're Alabama, have 2 losses, one against Vanderbilt, not go to the SEC championship game, and still make the playoffs. But you can't. Not one-on-one versus Miami. I don't even think South Carolina. You cannot go 9-3, have one of your losses to Vanderbilt, and they've had a decent team this year, no question about it, but then go get your doors blown off just recently to Oklahoma, this year's Oklahoma team. And getting that large bid over teams, no, come on. No. Alabama, if they've got Alabama sitting in the catbird seat, sitting in the roll tide seat, I am going to go nuclear. No disrespect to the incredible football program of Alabama, the great fans of Alabama. But come on, man. Come on. Let's go here. Let's go. This is college football's peek around the corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to donate to this Rebel Outpost. Support this channel with a donation. Hit the $sign where you make a comment, and I'll get to you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome, everybody, into the studio. All of you. The ones that are going to celebrate tonight, and the ones that are going to be heartbroken tonight. Everybody. I have a shoulder to cry on here. It is right here. Come on into the studio. Don't be afraid to be a legend with your comments in the chat room and with your phone calls later in the show. And it's not going to be too much later because this is what we're going to do. We popped up on here about an hour or an hour and a little bit, hour and change ahead of the release of the final or the second to the last final rankings released from the playoff committee. I want to hear your voices. I want to read what you got to say in the chat room. I want to hear what you got to say with the phone calls. What do you expect to see tonight? What do you want to see tonight? What do you think should happen tonight? Because all those 3 could be different. All of those 3 could be different. We are going to get a lot of answers. We are going to get a lot of answers. A lot of the rankings, or I should say some of the rankings, isn't going to be changed from this week to the final one next Sunday. Or at least I don't think so. We're going to find out tonight the situation between Tennessee Volunteers and the Ohio State Buckeyes, right? We're going to, and I don't think that's going to change. Who's ever ahead of who between the Buckeyes and the Volunteers is probably going to remain. So if it's listed, Ohio State has a home game. They're number 8, they're number 7. That's what we're probably going to see the following Sunday. This coming up Sunday. or if Tennessee is ahead of the Buckeyes. Now, there is some stuff, of course, most of it, we're going to see where the landscape is right now, but could change. In other words, what is the difference between Arizona State versus Boise State in tonight's ranking? What is the difference between the Cyclones, the Iowa State Cyclones versus the Boise State Broncos? What is the gap? What is the difference? And then ultimately, we're all looking at who's ahead of who between Alabama, Ole Miss, BYU, right? Who's ahead of who? Miami, Ole Miss, Alabama, South Carolina, BYU. Because a lot of that, or maybe none of that, is going to change from this week on to next Sunday. There is a lot at stake tonight. Just how these rankings are released, there is a lot at stake tonight. First of all, let me get to some super chats. And then I want to give you my humble, strong opinion. And then we'll get to your guys' opinion here as we wait for the rankings. Greg, you just need to know this. What ESPN wants, ESPN gets. ESPN wants Bama in the college football playoffs. Thank you for the super chat, Ryan. I appreciate your generosity. And, that is part of the reason why this last Sunday live show 2 nights ago, I have Alabama into the playoffs if SMU defeats Clemson. If Clemson defeats SMU, I do not have Bama in the playoffs because I'm trying to project what the committee's going to do. And I believe they're going to have Bama in. Now, Heather Dinich believes Miami has the edge, and I agree with Heather Dinich. We're going to go over that here. We are going to go over that. There is flaws in Miami's resume. There definitely is. And how they've played and some of the eye test. But I still can't put Bama ahead of them. South Carolina now. See, I like South Carolina. I don't have them projected to go because I don't think the committee loves them as much as I do. But if it was a one-person committee headed by this guy, the Wiseman, Greg the Cooler, if Greg the Cooler headed the committee, I would have South Carolina as the last at-large bid over Bama and Miami and Ole Miss and BYU. And I've been over that. I'll go over that some more. You can all disagree with me. I'm sure you all disagree with me. And then if Clemson beats SMU, SMU is going to get that at-large spot, probably. But then, South Carolina just defeated Clemson. So, anyways, I think South Carolina has the resume to get in. But anyways, thank you, Ryan Willie. I do appreciate it. So we are going to get to phone calls. Let me thank everybody for coming on in. Carrie, Go Nose, Go Ducky, Skaven, yes. John, Till, Matt Neeson. Big night for Matt Neeson. Steven Vitt, Ohio Bobcat. Mr. Monkey says, I hope the SEC gets all the 3 lost teams into the playoffs that they deserve. Holy smokes. Randy Taylor, Michael is in the house. He's got Alabama over Miami with a question mark. Jimmy, is in the house. Kenneth Stromness, Mr. BYU Cougar, is here. Humble Bumble Duck, Jay Chapman. Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. The question is, does he bring the Washington State quarterback with him, John Mateer? Or do they stick with Arnold, who they got? They're both young, both promising. But yeah, it's a promising hire by Oklahoma. The architect is in the house. Deadeye is here. Jan Hoke is here. Hummus Hero. Miller Moss is into the portal, and there was a list of 5 teams. And I can't remember the 5. If somebody wants to list them in the chat room. Sounds like there's a list of 5 teams, and one of them is Michigan, but there was 4 others. Sko Ducky is in the house. You can't be losing 2 out of the last 3 games. NE is here. Chad Bracey, MBM. Miami deserves it over Bama, in my opinion. I think it's close. I agree. Coos Corner, West Virginia fans better be ready to learn to speak Rich Rodgers, baby.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Boy, I can't even. I think it was 2 days ago. Was it 2 days ago or was it yesterday? Woo. All these days are blending into each other. Whenever we did our live show on West Virginia, was it yesterday? Whew. Anyways, we have in our hot board, we've got Rich Rodriguez as number 1. I didn't get raked over the coals like I thought I was going to. We explained the reasons why. I did get some DMs from Mountaineer fans. We got a lot of Mountaineer fans. I'm very grateful for that who watch this program. There is, there are, and we talked about it, right? There is some powerful people behind his candidacy. So, we're going to follow that story. We have no reason to change our number 1, Rich Rodriguez. We have no reason to change it, but I do want to, now that Coos Corner has laid it on, I did put this, we got some information last night, and I put this out here. Tyson Helton steam rising. And so the next question is, for who? For what? For where? And my answer is somewhere. We do have some more information, but I'm not ready to go with it yet. But Tyson Helton is, he is getting some major love right now. Major love. And it's coming from a few different sources and directions. And let me just post you the coaching record. The coaching record isn't, well, of course, is part of the reason why he's getting a lot of love out there in the coaching searches. Okay? Tyson Helton, let me just show you guys this. Done a really good job at Western Kentucky. 9-4, 5-7, 9-5, 9-5, 8-5, 8-4. a lot of turnover at Western Kentucky. He's produced a lot of young offensive coordinators who went out and is excelling in other places. One of them being the Texas Tech offensive coordinator. But what has really Tyson Helton, oh, what's that? Okay, we gotta do it. Okay, what has really vaulted Tyson Helton into pretty much everybody's coach search hot boards, and that would include Purdue. Hint, hint, wink, wink. We believe now it involves West Virginia, and I don't know if anybody else is reporting it, but Tyson Helton is getting a lot of love. And one of the reasons why, other than he's been very successful, people know he's very knowledgeable. He's been producing a pretty good G5 coaching tree, an excellent G5 coaching tree. Developing coaches, same as the players. But he's also has respect of everybody around him. The players, the coaches, the administrators, and he's been at one place for how many years? 6 or 7 years. There is a lot of interest in Mr. Helton. Now, does he catch a ride on this carousel ride in 2024? There's not going to be many job openings. But I think everyone should keep the Tyson Helton in mind. One in particular, the Purdue job. But I would not cancel him out for any jobs. Not for the UCF job, not for West Virginia. I don't think he's on North Carolina hot board, but in particular Purdue. Purdue's going to go the opposite way, right? They're not going to go with the defensive coordinator. They're not even probably going to go with the coordinator. They're going to go with the head coach with experience. They're going to go with an offensive mind. They're going to go with somebody who has great relationships with every tier of the administration and players and coaches. And they're going to go with somebody with a unique offense. And I think Mr. Helton fits what Purdue is looking for and would fit into their price range. So I just wanted to bring that up. Real quick. Probably won't have a time again tonight. Keep an eye on the name Tyson Helton. Let's go back. I want to thank everybody for coming on in. Charlie Atwood, we are Penn State. Xavier Wolf is in the house. Steve, unfortunately, the college football playoffs will be the same as it ever was. Steve Moser is in the house. The T-shirt fan media don't know about BYU's road win over SMU. Well, we do here at Peek Around the Corner. We definitely do. Connecticut fan is in the house. Ryan Brooks. Let me tell you something, Mr. Brooks. Let me tell you something. One of those projections, a couple different. The Sporting News. Go check out the Sporting News bowl projections, Mr. Ryan Brooks. Go check out the Sporting News of this morning. It had my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers versus the evil LSU Tigers in the Music City Bowl in Nashville, Tennessee. Brett McMurphy from Action Network had that bowl projection yesterday, but he changed it today. It's pretty much impossible to project the Big Ten bowl games because the Big Ten focuses so much on their bowl partners. So they can move teams. They can have teams jumping over other. They can have a 3-6 Nebraska jumping over, way over the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Right? Even though Minnesota finished way higher in the standings, they are allowed, and they're probably going to do it. So who knows? Who knows? And Michigan, who knows what's going to happen? But we could be playing. It could be a Brian Kelly versus PJ Fleck matchup. Don Scruggs, Georgia Bulldog, is in the house. Expedition Greg is in the house. He's waiting to see where the Buckeyes are ranked, because that ranking is probably not going to change much. Probably not. Probably not. Richard Jones, Oregon Duck, is in the house. James Davis, thanks for coming on in. The problem with Miami is they did not play anyone to get to the 10. Well, they don't have that big win. Other than the Louisville win. That is the problem. That's their problem. They got a few other problems. Kerry Gold knows SMU, Kansas, BYU. Nick Boardman is in the house. David Griffin, I have predictions. Good. I want to hear him. Replica, Mateer going to USC or Miami, was not in the portal yet. Right? There hasn't been any really official, but he just lost his offensive coordinator. There is somebody who is jumping into the portal, a quarterback that I think we all got to keep an eye on. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. A name that has probably snuck by some of you. Bo Weevil, go Clemson, beat the Ponies. Larry, the GM, is in the house. Sam Kim is in the house. P-Lit, why hasn't UNC named a new head coach? Maybe their head coach is coaching in a conference championship game. Possibly. Maybe. That could be one of the reasons. A Rich Rod reunion. Ed Cook is in the house. We're going to get through this here. Rock and Ran, I'm ready. I'm here and ready to tee off on behalf of college football, not just Miami. Alex Wood is in the house. AMAC is here. Who else is here? David Hall, Carlton Hurdle. TCU slowly building up back to greatness. Could be SMU has the best receivers. They lost a very good tight end, though. They lost a very good tight end, R.J. Maryland. Who else is in the house? Who else is here? Tayton Hawk, when is signing day? That's real soon, right? Isn't that real soon from now? Okay. Noah Fifita. I don't think there is really... Now, that could happen. But I checked on that, and I was told that is not real. Yet. I mean, it could happen. I don't know. But what has been sort of reported or rumored out there is not real. Noah Fifita going into the portal. Signing day is tomorrow, I believe. Tomorrow is signing day. Okay, so let's get to some of the stuff I want to get to, and then we're going to open up the lines before the ESPN show starts. First of all, Michigan offensive coordinator and quarterback coach Kirk Campbell has been fired. Well, I guess he had to be fired. I guess, right? The pressure at Michigan, the offense was terrible. But my goodness, Kurt Campbell had nothing to work with at the quarterback position. Now, maybe that's some of his fault, but I don't think so, because the quarterback room was settled before Kurt Campbell got there, or before Kurt Campbell was the offensive coordinator. But whatever, he's fired. I don't know. He did not have much to work with. So hopefully he lands on his feet. Michigan has fired their offensive coordinator. Who do they go to next? This is an interesting portal. Fresno State quarterback Mikey Keene has announced he's entering the transfer portal. He's thrown for over 8,000 yards, 65 touchdowns, a big addition to the quarterback market, Chris Hummer. Now, some of you might remember Mikey Keene started out at UCF. He's an interesting cat. I do not know, I don't know the level of interest. I mean, there's going to be interest. He doesn't have the strongest arm. If you watch him at Fresno State, UCF, I remember the game. I remember, who did they play? Was last year. They played Purdue. They defeated Purdue, and I think it was Coach Ryan Walters' first game as coach of Purdue. I might be wrong. It might have been his second or third, but whatever. It don't matter. And I watched a large part of that game. Fresno State pulled that game out. Keene was, he's a gutsy quarterback. He's got some skills. Doesn't have a strong arm. Will not fit it into a tight window. But he can run. He can throw. He makes plays. This year, 2 years ago, when he really came on the scene at Fresno State, he completed 67% of his passes. This year, he completed 70% of his passes. An extremely effective quarterback at Fresno State. Now, he threw some touchdowns. I mean, he threw too many interceptions. Some of that, he's always trying to make a play. He had to always try to make a play. Quarterback of Fresno State. And some of that, he doesn't have the strongest arm. His balls get tipped. He's short. But he's pretty good. He's pretty good. I would consider him John Mateer light. He's not as good as the Washington State quarterback, but he's pretty good. So I'm very interested to see where Mikey Keene goes. I don't know if he can get into a Power 4 conference program. He may, but I don't know. Let me know your comments in the comments section below the video. Pertaining to the rankings released, Ross Dellinger put up a couple interesting questions. The big question is ahead of tonight's rankings release. Does Ohio State drop so far past Georgia and Tennessee that it does not get to host? Right now, I got the Buckeyes at number 9. Tennessee, Ohio State. I got Georgia ahead of the Buckeyes and Tennessee, and I think they're going to have Georgia stay ahead of those two teams. I could be dead wrong. If Georgia loses the SEC championship game, I still think they're going to have Georgia ahead of Tennessee and the Buckeyes. And I got Tennessee 8, Ohio State 9. Now, I've had people tell me I'm crazy. The Buckeyes are going to be number 7, not number 9, and you very well could be correct. Number 2, what is the gap between Boise and the highest Big 12 team? Arizona State. We talked about that at the beginning of the program. All eyes are on the gap between Boise State and Arizona State. And does Miami fall behind Bama and out of the field? I don't believe they should. And it's not, look, Miami, now I've talked about it. There's like 5 or 6 different silos of data, right? There's your biggest win, your worst loss, your record, the eye test, which we're going to get to in a second here. And Miami eye test is a complete mixed bag. It's a mixed bag. The incredible offense, being able to pull out wins, no matter who they're in the playoffs with, they're going to score, they're going to scramble, they're going to fight, they might win at the end, but the defense is got serious issues. So I can't sit here and say Miami has passed all the eye tests. But losing to Syracuse and Georgia Tech does not qualify to me as a bad loss. It might not qualify to me as a good loss, although Miami and Syracuse, that is close to a good loss. Those other teams, like Alabama, they have a bad loss to Oklahoma. And it just happened. It just happened. Tonight's rankings should, now this is Ross Dellinger again. Tonight's rankings should assure us of the first round home game sites, some of which already seem like a guarantee. This I mostly agree with. This is what we're going to learn for sure tonight, almost for sure. South Bend, yes, Notre Dame is going to get a home game, and I got a feeling that they're going to be the 5th seed. Eugene or State College, the loser in the Big Ten championship game, should get a home game. Austin or Athens, the SEC champion, the loser of that should get a home game, and I think they will. Knoxville or Columbus. Again, I've got Knoxville and I think Ohio State's going to beat Tennessee. In Tennessee or at the shoe, it don't matter. I think the Buckeyes are going to win. But I'm looking at it, and it could go either way. It could go either way, and I would not be surprised. That question should be answered tonight, because there should not be any movement. If they've got Ohio State number 7, they're probably going to be 7 next Sunday. If they got Tennessee number 8 or 7 or 9, that should not really change on the results of Georgia and Texas. Okay? And I got one more thing to get to. Hold on. We are going to go into this. We're going to get to your phone calls here real quick. I promise you. But we're going to get into the strength of record. Not strength of schedule. Strength of record. I do believe that both I do believe that both metrics should be looked at. Both metrics are important. Okay? This is from the Bear. Listing the strength of schedule, the rankings. I'm sorry, not strength of schedule. Strength of record. Strength of record. Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Tennessee, Indiana, SMU, Alabama, South Carolina, BYU, Boise State, Miami, Iowa State, and Ole Miss is a couple back of Iowa State as 18th. This metric, strength of record, is basically saying this is how well you've done, your record and how you played versus your schedule, versus everybody else, relative to everybody else. So Oregon has the top strength of record. Who they played, how they played is better than everyone else, and how they played with the schedule that they had in front of them. Georgia's number 2. Now, and Chris goes on to say, this has been a metric, and I don't know exactly what all goes into it, right? But this is the metric that the committee has used in the past. And this is one of the reasons why if Georgia loses that SEC championship game, I still think they're going to stay ahead of the Ohio State Buckeyes. I may be wrong. I think Texas, if they lose, one of those teams is going to get the 7th. And Penn State and Oregon is going to, Oregon and Penn State is going to get this, the 5th. And the loser of Georgia and Texas probably going to get the 6th. 6 and 7. Notre Dame is 5. 6, 7. I think 6, 7 is the loser of the Big Ten championship game. 7 is the loser of the SEC championship game. And then you got the Buckeyes in Tennessee. And this is one of the reasons why, the strength of record, which is a metric field way of saying eye test. My eye test doesn't match up exactly with the strength of record metric. Of course it doesn't. That's natural. That should be expected. But it sort of kind of lines up, right? I've always said this. I've said it all year. Texas passes the eye test. The schedule they've played and how they've played it, to me, passes the eye test. Same with Georgia, same with Oregon. Same with Penn State. Yeah, they've had a tough game against USC and my mighty Golden Gophers. But Notre Dame, they have paid for their sin. They have. And the Buckeyes, yes, you lost in Michigan, a 7-5 Michigan. But overall, they still pass it. Tennessee, right with the Buckeyes in Indiana. I think they have. I have defended Indiana. No, they don't have a huge win. But the schedule that they played and how they played it, SMU, the same thing. And then you've got where Alabama, South Carolina, BYU, Miami, Iowa State, and Ole Miss. We're going to take Ole Miss out of it. They're 18th. And they have looked, in my opinion, they've looked rubbish. Why Alabama is up here? Because they beat South Carolina earlier in the year. But that loss to Oklahoma, in the way South Carolina's playing, and they just beat Clemson, who might become the ACC champion, I've got the Gamecocks ahead of Alabama. The strength of record has Miami below Alabama. And I sort of get how the metrics did that because, again, Miami doesn't have the strength of wins. The big win. If you notice, the strength of record has Boise State ahead of Iowa State and ahead of Arizona State. We talked about Arizona State's losses. Not real bad. I mean, Cincinnati. But, again, so there it is. Strength of record. Again, something that is full of metrics that they kind of keep hidden secret, whatever. It sort of matches my eye test. But again, there is Alabama. South Carolina's right behind them. And Tennessee and Ohio State are hitched at the hip. One of them is going to be 8. One of them is going to be 9, in my opinion. A lot of Buckeye fans say, Greg, you are wrong. They've been telling me I've been wrong for 24 hours. A lot of Buckeyes think a lot of Buckeye fans say Ohio State's going to be number 7. And before we get to your phone calls, one more. Well, you know what? Let's get to your phone calls. I can get to another. There's a story out there written by somebody out there talking about Urban Meyer and the Buckeyes. We'll get to that later. We will get to that later. Let's open up the phone lines. Let me know what you're thinking before they're released, and then we're going to open up the phone lines again after they release the rankings. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. The phone lines are open. They got Miami and Alabama and South Carolina up at the board. They're talking about it. They're talking about it. They got all sorts of percentages up there. I wish I could show it to you guys, but I cannot. They will go with Bama because they get bet. Miami's gone. CBS Sports and one other expert site has Miami 10 or 11. Ryan Brooks, Bama lost 2 weeks ago. Recent bias. That's some of it. But I think some of that is okay bias because, you know, how you playing down the stretch is one of those lanes of information you got to take in. It's not everything. Illini Ted, with only 12 games of review, unfortunately, the eye test will continue to be played. Yes, it will be a big factor in this. I'm not a fan at all of it. That was so little data points. Phone lines open, 763-260-1333. Greg, you heard all them Big Ten feelings. I heard everybody's feelings. At some point, look at the ACC being aggressive. Social media, ACC football, put them in. The ACC is a multi-bid league, period. SMU undeniably in. 11-1 in ACC champ game bound. Miami earned and in. Best offense in the nation, 10-2. 2 losses by a combined of only 9 points. Clemson win and in. So look at that. The ACC is being aggressive, or more aggressive than they were last year. No question about it. Tulane at Army, Friday night. Iowa State, Arizona State, Saturday at noon. Georgia, Texas, 4 o'clock Eastern Time. Clemson, SMU, 8 o'clock Eastern Time on Saturday. Okay, what's going on here? What's going on? Ooh. Clemson could be a bid stealer. Absolutely. Actually, Miami's a top 25 defense statistically. CFB Plus doesn't like what I just said. Don Scruggs. If I judge Georgia's play this year unbiased, they are freaking awesome. John Wilner just retweeted something saying that Noah Fifita is in the portal. Can somebody please send me that tweet? Can somebody please send me that tweet if you've got it? Carrie Gold Nose, thank you so much for your super chat, for your incredible generosity of this YouTube channel. Thank you so much. I agree with the ACC. Clemson wins and SMU and Miami get in. Also, Georgia won't be ranked higher than Ohio State. Okay? All right, check the DM. Wow. 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 CFB Plus, thank you so much. Arizona quarterback Noah Fifita is entering the transfer portal. Sources tell Fifita was the Pac-12 freshman offensive player of the year last season and has 2 seasons left eligibility left. This is from Rivals. Wow. Now, Noah Fifita did not have a great season this year. And honestly, I can't hold that against them. I'm trying to find in 2023, he completed 72% of his passes, 2,800 yards, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. This year, he only completed 60% of his passes, 18 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. But he has shown enough where he is going to be highly sought after. The question is, where does he want to go? Like,
All from
BJ.
BJ, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling.
Hey, what's
sir.
up, Greg? As always, appreciate for letting me speak on your platform.
I just checked in and I saw the North Fifita stuff. Nobody knows what happened there. I don't. It'll come out probably later. But it could have been like the NIL stuff. But I got a question for you, Greg. How soon do you think we're gonna have contracts for athletes in college?
I think this year with the buyout, where they can buy out,
Yeah.
they can go in the portal. But yeah, where they can return some of their NIL money, whatever that is. I think this year we're going to see it.
Yeah, because I think, and here's the thing: when I see stuff, I read it, I hear it, but I don't necessarily put it in the truth bucket. I just put it in it was reported bucket,
Yeah.
right? And when with the Noah stuff, him and I think it was McMillan and the big corner that they had that they brought back to Utah. His name slips me, but he was like a big 6'3" corner that was highly rated, and he decided he tested the market, but he came back to Arizona. And it was reported that NIL, Arizona NIL was supporting it and this, that, and the third. And I'm like, if I gave you money for you to come back, it's not for you to leave 6 months later. So from a university standpoint, there has to be some kind of protection, or it'll just become litigious, right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of lawsuits and things. And whether he stays or he goes, I really don't care. But I really think the NCAA or whatever body is in charge of it, should have some kind of controls with contracts, because I can only imagine how difficult it would be to have all these contracts, different, contracts on a team, and having to manage that. That's too much for a coach to do, let alone for an organization to kind of set up their own rules. But hopefully he lands on his feet. Probably UW, probably most likely, but who knows? But I just want to kind of get my piece on that, Greg. And as always, stay blessed. And
got it.
I'll hop back in the comment section.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Thanks for the call, man. Wait, you can't hold a mediocre season performance against them. Why not? Later, the GM. Well, first of all, they just had a coaching change. They lost a whole bunch of guys in the portal. Noah Fifita was running for his life this year. Running for his absolute life. The defense couldn't stop you and me, Larry, the GM. The previous season, he was unbelievable. He's better than he was this year. He's better than that. So yeah, I don't hold him against it. And he's limited. I mean, he is limited. He was Noah Fifita he wasn't a 4-star coming out of high school. He was a little bit of a mid, or a little bit higher than a mid 3-star coming out of California, Sacramento, Anaheim, or somewhere around that. He was he was not supposed to explode like he did last year in 2023. I don't know if he is going to, somebody brought up Utah. I'm not sure if he's willing to go outside of the Pacific Coast area, like the West. So maybe, I don't think, John Teal, thank you so much for your super chat. I appreciate it. Fifita back with his coach at Washington, maybe? I don't think so. I would bet against that. Maybe I'm wrong. I probably look silly. But, he did not follow him to Washington, right? When he could have. So I don't think he's following Fish. I don't think so. But again, USC is not up. Maybe UCLA. But Maybe Utah. I know Utah's looking for a quarterback. So maybe that is the fit. But he's going to get interest. I'm wondering if he's willing to go to the Midwest, go to the South, go to the East. Not sure about it. But wow, breaking news. Noah Fifita. It looks like we're going to get the rankings here, right? Is this starting up? Fifita to BYU or Utah makes sense. He's LDS for what it's worth. Here we go, boys. Let's get it done. Okay, we're going to close up the phone lines for now. We're going to open it back up. Once they're released, after I go nuclear. Wow, Jute. Boy, that would be worth the effort, Utah. Again, I do not hold last season, this 2024 season, I do not hold it against him. The man was running for his life, and he had a score every time he touched the ball, and they had one great receiver, and they triple covered him. Quality Conley, I don't know what happened to him, the great running back. But anyways, it was a terrible season for Arizona. Noah Fifita leaving. And remember, he's got 2 years of eligibility. You get him on a 2-year contract. If Utah gets him, Kyle Whittingham, he's not going to retire for at least 2 more years. Satani, he likes a mobile quarterback. We'll see what happens. Maybe it's going to be a bidding war between BYU. Here we go. Memphis is 25. Memphis 25. After their big win against Tulane. Army is 24. Not very high. I don't know. Colorado is 23. Illinois should be ahead of Colorado. Syracuse 22. I put all the reasons why Illinois should be ahead of Colorado. The AP, there it is, Illinois 21. The AP poll had Colorado still ahead of Illinois, and there's no way should Colorado be ahead of Illinois. UNLV 20. That's really good news for Boise State. Really good news. Number 19, Missouri. Number 18, BYU. That's just that ranking. BYU and Colorado are probably going to play in a bowl game against each other. The Alamo Bowl. Because Colorado is going to play with the Pac-12 tie-in bowls. Colorado has a very good chance of playing BYU in a bowl game. Mark that down. Clemson, number 17. Again, it doesn't matter. Clemson win, they're in. They're not going to get a large bid anyways, so Clemson's ranking does not matter. Iowa State, 16. Okay, UNLV's 20, Iowa State is 16. Boy, they're going to cut this close. Arizona State is 15. So Arizona State defeating Iowa State. Does that bolt them up ahead of Boise State beating number 20, UNLV? It might come down to the margin of victory. It might come down if Arizona State dominates Iowa State or Iowa State dominates Arizona State, and if Boise State only gets by UNLV. South Carolina 14. Boo! Boo! Terrible. The Gamecock Nation. 13 is Ole Miss. Well, then Alabama's got to be 12. You can't put Miami 12. Alabama's got to be 12. Do it. Alabama. Alabama. So, you didn't even score a touchdown against Oklahoma. You didn't even score a touchdown against Oklahoma. Come on. What a joke. Okay, well, number 10, Boise State. Boy. Again, I've said this for a month. I think Boise State's going to hang on to the 4th seed if they win the Mountain West Conference Championship game. I think Boise State's going to hang on. So I think Arizona State or Iowa State probably going to get the 12th seed. And they're going to have to play Oregon or Texas if one of those two teams should lose. Indiana is number 9. Now, it's either going to be the Buckeyes or Tennessee here. Either the Buckeyes or Tennessee. No question about it. No question about it. If Clemson wins, SMU is going to get that at last at-large bid. Number 8, I suppose they're going to put, SMU here. Excuse me. They're going to put SMU here, okay? If SMU loses to Clemson, they're probably going to fall behind Indiana. But are they going to fall behind Alabama? That's the question. Then they better not. They better not. Number 7, Tennessee or the Buckeyes. Ohio State or Tennessee here. This is going to determine who has home field advantage in the first round. It is Tennessee. So Tennessee is going to have to go to the shoe. Wow. Wow. Georgia would destroy Georgia Tech if they played. Yeah, 8 overtimes. Rock and Rant could have predicted this a year ago and they screwed Florida State. Ohio State number 6. So Tennessee is going to be traveling to Ohio State. That is pretty much a lock. Which means we could be getting a second round of number 1 Oregon versus number 8 Ohio State. Number 5 Georgia. I'm not surprised they got Georgia ahead of the Buckeyes. Number 4 Notre Dame, not surprised. They're going to be the 5th seed. Ryan Willie Fickle needs to learn how to treat the fan base. Never tell a fan base to believe in him if you haven't shown them anything to believe in him. Thank you, Ryan Willie, for your super chat. Thank you so very much for your continued generosity. Number 3, Penn State. Thank you, Ryan Willie. Kerry Gold knows Georgia shouldn't be 5. Daniel Montecastle, Indiana number 1. Oregon 1, Texas 2, Penn State 3. No surprises. Notre Dame 4, Georgia 5. Buckeyes 6, Tennessee, SMU, Indiana. So the question is, if SMU loses, do they fall behind Alabama? That's the question. If Boise State wins, and whoever wins between Iowa State and Arizona State, do they vault Boise State? Arizona State versus Penn State. If Penn State should lose the Big Ten championship. Indiana versus Georgia. That's how I have it. Alabama, Notre Dame. So they would have Penn State ahead of Notre Dame when Penn State loses to Oregon. That's interesting. Notre Dame and Alabama. Wow. I don't think it matters. Miami's out. It doesn't. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the phone lines because you guys know how I feel about it. This Alabama team, I mean, they just got their doors blown out by Oklahoma. They lost to Vanderbilt. No one else would survive that. They have a third loss, a good loss, but they have 3 losses. And I'm not saying there should never be a 3-loss team to go to the playoffs, but not this team, not Alabama. It's almost like the game against Oklahoma didn't even matter. It's almost like it didn't even matter. It's exactly how they treated Alabama last year. The same thing, guys. The same exact story. Woo! Man, oh man. Holy smokes. Give me another minute. I'm going to open up the phone lines. Give me another minute. I'm behind in a couple of super chats. I appreciate you guys with your donations. Give me a moment here. again, I feel bad for I feel so bad for two teams. I feel bad for a lot of teams. Let me say this. Replica. Thank you so much for your generosity. Miami and BYU getting treated like bleep. Why Boise State is 10, no quality wins. Bama is 11 despite losing to the worst Oklahoma team in decades. Nasty work. Thank you for your generosity, Replica, and your great phone calls and your contributions. Thank you so much. 9 months being a member of this channel, Cloak and Dagger. Holy smokes. You are hereby knighted officially Cloak and Dagger once again. Thank you, Replica. Look, I feel bad for BYU because the Cougars had this thing all sewn up. But they did slip and slide at the end of the season, right? And they did not win the tiebreakers, the Big 12. But I feel bad for BYU. An epic football season for the BYU Cougars. But I really feel bad for Miami because Cam Ward has been spectacular. The best quarterback in the nation. That offense is serious. And the defense, they just did not have the thoroughbreds. They didn't have the guys. At first, I thought it was just early season mass confusion. But no, they just didn't have the guy. I feel bad for Miami. I feel bad for South Carolina. Above everybody else. Above everybody else. Above everybody else. Sorry, I don't think we have any Gamecock fans in the PATC family. But South Carolina has been playing some football. And South Carolina, and I'm sorry to the LSU Tiger fans in the PATC family, but South Carolina got screwed more than anybody else did in a single game. South Carolina had that game won. Period. Period. When Nussmeier turned around, he made a couple steps. He was going to go after that pick six when he threw that interception, and a South Carolina guy was there to push him in the chest, and Nussmeier acted like he got shot from a depository in Dallas, Texas, and they threw the flag. All the South Carolina did, all he did was block a guy who was about to pursue, and all he did was this. That's it. Did not hit him with the helmet, did not give him a blow. Wasn't a blind shot. It was squared up. And South Carolina lost because of that. If they don't get screwed in that game, South Carolina is one of the best 12 teams in the nation. They deserve to go. That is my opinion. We're going to open up the phone lines here. We're going to open up the phone lines so you can tell me how wrong I got it again. John Till, Bama must be the world class on that casting couch. Wow. John Till throwing the elbow. Kerry Gold knows if Georgia was let in and didn't deserve it, they should at least play at Indiana. What BS. Kerry Gold knows is not happy. Thank you for the super chat, Kerry Gold knows. Thank you for the super chat, Mr. John Till. Now, we are going to open up the phone lines, making sure, John Till, UCLA wouldn't mind and bring that wide receiver too. Noah Fifita, McMillan's going to the NFL. Thank you, John Till, for your generosity. Let's go to your phone lines. Let's open it up. Let me have it. Let me have it. Let the committee have it. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. I'm going to put up some reporting on this. I know a lot of people are upset. Let me see here. This is all screwed up. Everything's all screwed up. Give me a call, 763-260-1333. And
From
Becky, go Huskies.
Becky, go Huskies. Can you hold just one moment, please?
I sure can, Greg.
And I said this earlier today. Stuart Mandel, note that Miami dropped farther for losing on the road to Syracuse, an 8-3 team, than the Buckeyes did for losing at home to a 6-5 team in scoring only 10 points. This is why I thought the Buckeyes would drop farther, drop behind Tennessee. For whatever reason, they got the Buckeyes still up there hosting a home game. Now, you guys know I haven't been all that impressed with Tennessee down the stretch either. I think they're going to get beat by the Buckeyes, but I think Tennessee should host that home game. I do believe they should host that home game, but it doesn't look like they're going to. Becky, thanks for your patience. The floor is yours.
Well, can we just start off? We just need to start calling the college football playoff the Alabama Invitational. Because at this point, I feel like Alabama could go 0-12, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, but they played a good, they had a tough schedule to get to 0-12.
Yeah.
They're still better than 90% of the country. And it's like, I'm sorry. No 3-loss SEC school should be in higher than, say, a Miami. Miami at 12 is weird. It basically says that if Clemson wins, Miami's out.
Yeah, Miami's out. Miami's out. Miami's out no matter what, because at 12, you're going to have the Big 12 champion in, so Miami's going to get kicked out of 12. I mean,
yeah.
Miami's just out. There's just no way.
Yeah, they're just out. And that's why I said they basically were like, look, Clemson will get it. Like, the ACC is stuck in a situation now where they're probably only going to get one team in, and Clemson, or SMU.
Wins, SMU will get in.
I don't know if they'll get in. They're going to have
to. I hope. Boy, if they don't get in, holy smokes!
No, let me tell you, Greg.
All right,
Alabama.
All right.
No. Let me explain. Alabama sitting at 11 tells you that SMU is probably not going to get in. They would have to move Alabama down.
Well,
Alabama just being in the current ranking kind of makes it impossible to, like, I don't see SMU staying in the rankings, which I think sucks because they've had a great year. But Alabama being at 12 or at 11, essentially the committee's saying, look, they're in.
Well, no, I mean, because SMU would, in my opinion, just my opinion, I'm probably wrong, Becky. I'm probably wrong. I'm Greg the Cooler. They probably, I would think they would move them to number 11. I think they would move them, Indiana would probably get ahead of SMU. And then you've got Boise State, which doesn't matter. And then you've got Alabama. I don't think they're going to punish. Becky, I could be wrong. Boy, if you're correct, Becky, I'm going to have a stroke next Sunday where we cover this.
I'm telling you, Greg,
I think
it's set up for it.
I think they're setting up. I think the committee is setting up for is where the conference champions are not going to get punished that much once they lose the game. In other words, the Georgia-Texas loser is going to have a home game. The Oregon-Penn State, they're going to be 5 or 6 or 6 or 7. Tennessee-Georgia, 6 or 7. And I think SMU, if they lose, I don't think they're going to drop them. I just don't see it. They would be boy, it would be, holy smokes, Becky. Holy smokes. If you're right.
They don't move teams down that don't play in the playoffs. Like like when it was a 4-team playoff, they rarely ever move teams down that did not play. They basically stay where they're at or they move up.
But SMU, if SMU loses, Clemson moves up.
Loses, Clemson
moves
and
up.
Big 12 champion. Yeah, so the Big 12 champion and Clemson will end up being 11 and 12.
What?
Right? That's how that's how they're going to set it up.
I mean, the Big 12 champion and the ACC champion move up. They are in one of the 12 slots. So if
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's set up, Greg, for the ACC. If Clemson wins, the ACC champ and the Big 12 champ will essentially be teams number 11 and 12. There's no room for SMU. If they don't move, they'd have to move Alabama to like 13. Like, basically saying Alabama would have to move to 12.
No, they can keep Alabama 11, but the conference champions are going to get an automatic berth.
Correct. No, I know. Correct. That's what I'm saying. Like, they're basically setting it up so that those two teams are going to take team number 11 and 12 spots. SMU has to come out of the rankings. What I'm saying is essentially they're going to swap Clemson for SMU, and Alabama gets in. That's how it's going to go. Clemson won't be 8. Well, it will be honest. They're not going to be 8, but essentially they're just going to replace the two teams in the top 12. They're going to get them in. Alabama will get in because if SMU stays in the top 12, like they'd have to bump Alabama basically completely out, make them 13, and keep SMU in. Like, they've set it up to where Alabama's in. It feels like Alabama's in.
Yeah, I don't feel that. I don't feel that. I'm interested in what other people are going to say here. I feel that Alabama's in if SMU wins, but if Clemson wins,
no. That's what I'm saying. Like, they're just going to swap Clemson and SMU. They're going to pull SMU out.
I don't think SMU is going to drop that far out. I really don't. I mean, unless they get their doors blown off. That's Boy, I'm interested to hear what other people have to say, Becky. I really am.
The other thing that I found weird is Ohio State. Basically, like you were saying, they could lose to a 7-5 team.
Yeah.
Not a good Michigan team.
Yeah.
Right? They don't drop very far. But Miami gets beat by a pretty good Syracuse team.
Yeah.
And they just fell like a rock. Like, is Smitty basically saying that Michigan and Syracuse, they played on a neutral field right now, Michigan's the better team?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me, other than the fact that it doesn't make any sense to me.
That's what I'm saying. Like, none of it makes sense.
And I talked about it earlier today. I said, they're going to drop Miami, stop the madness. They're going to drop Miami too much, and that's exactly what they did.
And then you have the big one at 4, Notre Dame. Essentially, Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, who's we now know is not a very good MAC team.
Yeah.
But they seem to be getting the benefit of the doubt on wins that teams like Notre Dame and Ohio State have been given benefits of the doubts that Miami, SMU, and a few other schools have not. Same thing with Alabama. They're getting these like, hey, it's okay, you can lose to these teams. Like, I don't understand what their thinking is. My mind is blown because that is not a good Oklahoma team. That might be the worst Oklahoma team in
and it wasn't a close loss. It wasn't even competitive.
No. We all watched that beating, right? Like, I've never seen a Kalen DeBoer team that ill-prepared. and he took Fresno State into Autzen one year. Like, they're not, like, I've never seen a team that badly prepared. And again, they got the benefit of the doubt. I don't understand what the committee's thought process is essentially on the Blue Bloods, but they're giving these teams the benefit of the doubt, and they're not extending that benefit to teams like Miami or even SMU. They're not, like, I don't understand. My thing is, like, it's mind-boggling to me that teams aren't getting the benefit of the doubt that other teams are.
You know, and here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, though. Notre Dame had a really, 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 really bad loss, okay? But you know what? They have blown the doors off of everybody since then. Now, they haven't played a real tough schedule, but just like Indiana, they passed the eye test. Their strength of record is very, very high. They have been. But you don't look at Alabama. Look at Alabama. And by the way, Notre Dame and Alabama could be playing each other in the first round in South Bend. But look at Alabama. Okay, Alabama, they have a really, really, really bad loss. That Oklahoma loss was bad. Bad, like Becky said. I mean, Alabama was atrocious. They couldn't score a touchdown in 60 minutes of play to a not very good Oklahoma team. Oklahoma just got blown out Saturday. But that's not all Alabama has on their record. They lost to Vanderbilt for the first time in Nashville since 1970, whatever. And then they got another loss. They're getting all this. Alabama's getting pampered like nobody's business. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like, Alabama moved up for losing. They lost and they went up. I mean, I don't know what they're thinking. Like, team number 13 is Ole Miss. They also have 3 losses, right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen Ole Miss get blown out like that all year. I haven't seen, who's it? Like, everybody kept talking about Indiana not being deserving of being in the top 10, a week ago, right?
Yeah.
Indiana never got, outside of Ohio State, Indiana never got thoroughly dominated. But again, Indiana didn't get dominated by a team that's 6-6.
Yeah.
They got dominated by a team that's in the top, the top 10.
Yeah. Winning is hard. Winning is hard.
Yeah.
You go 11-1. I don't. In the margin of victory, Indiana, I think they deserve to get into a 12 team. I think they got Indiana correct. I think, some of the stuff, guys, Texas, again, they had the easiest SEC schedule, but look how they've looked. Texas is a bona fide national champion contender. So some of this, but Alabama, they got punked. They got punked. That was their 3rd loss, and they got punked. And they're skipping it into they possibly are skipping into the tournament. I find that my mind is blown. South Carolina, they lost to Alabama. Very close game. I get it. 3 close losses. No bad losses. A bunch of good wins, and they've been playing the best football in the SEC consistently for over a month. They just beat Clemson, and they're behind Alabama. Well, I know they lost to Alabama. Head-to-head's important. It's important, but it can't be everything. It's important, but it can't be everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do people forget that Miami played Florida this year too?
Yeah.
Blew them out?
Yeah.
Which teams lose to Florida? It's okay. But Miami, it's not okay that Miami beat them. It's not okay that Miami took care of, Louisville. It's not okay that Miami took care of Georgia Tech. Miami lost to Georgia Tech, and that's like that was a killer. But Georgia Tech and Syracuse, Georgia Tech has a better record than Oklahoma, and Syracuse has a better record than Oklahoma.
Yeah. It's almost
Miami's
like,
getting punished.
you know what?
for
It's
playing.
almost like the Oklahoma game didn't even happen. What if it did happen? What if Alabama would have won that game by like a field goal? Alabama would probably be ranked maybe 1 or 2 spots higher. It's like the Oklahoma game did not matter. It's like completely irrelevant. That's how they're treating it. It's an abomination. Becky, I got to let you go. I know we got other phone calls.
No, you're good. I just want to say it feels like Miami's being punished because Florida State was terrible this year. That's what it feels like. All right, Greg. Love this show. I'll keep watching.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. I can't find my my soundboard is all screwed up. I've completely lost control. Kerry Gold knows it's the SEC mind virus in action. Kerry keeps bringing this up. He's probably onto something, or he's on something. Kerry Gold knows, drop Bama and keep SMU if Clemson beats SMU. Look, I'm going to say a couple things, and I'm behind on the chat. I will get to you. I'm going to say a couple things. One is, me and Becky just have an honest disagreement. I really do believe if SMU loses a competitive conference championship game, they're not gonna put Alabama over SMU. And if they do that, we're gonna have a war, because they screwed Florida State last year, and if they screw another ACC team, we're probably going to have a dissolution. We're sitting on a tinderbox right now. And if the selection committee want to light a match and pour gasoline over the tinderbox and throw the and throw the lighted match into the tinderbox, well, putting SMU behind, out of it, and putting Alabama into it, we're going to have an explosion. The second thing I want to say is, if Alabama does get into the playoffs, if SMU defeats Clemson and Alabama then is going to get in that last large bid, and if Alabama plays who? If Alabama plays Notre Dame, hold on.
Call from.
I did not get the name.
William.
William? Hold on,
Yes.
William. If Alabama plays Notre Dame, PATC, Greg the Cooler. No. Greg the Gold. Greg the Gold is going to be taking the gold. Notre Dame is finally going to get their revenge and beat an SEC team in the playoffs. The Fighting Irish are going to roll Tide Alabama. You heard it here first at Peek Around the Corner. And if Alabama beats Notre Dame, we're going to forget I even said that. Caller, the floor is yours. Let it rip.
Hey, Greg. So I agree with quite a few of the things that you said. And what I'm looking for is, are they being consistent? Not consistent to prior weeks, but consistent around their rankings. And they probably try to follow an agenda. So I think a lot of people would believe that they're trying to see how they can get Alabama in. And at that point, you can't use any recency bias because you'd be putting South Carolina in front of them. They just beat Clemson. They got no credit for beating Clemson. But if you use the computer rankings, the computers still like Bama in front of South Carolina. And you can always come and say, well, Bama beat South Carolina. Now, I agree with you. South Carolina should be in front. But if they use that metric, that's the same metric as to why they have Ohio State in front of Tennessee. The computers still see overall Ohio State to be in front of Tennessee. So even though Ohio State just looked bad against Michigan, they still have wins against two top 10 teams, which nobody else has. So if they're using like an overall body of work, I can at least buy it.
Let me interrupt 1 second. I really don't have any qualms about Ohio State being ahead of Tennessee. I don't. I had Tennessee ahead, but I said it's by very, very close. I can understand. Like we just said, Ohio State's got wins. So I get it. And I'm not even that impressed. I think the Buckeyes are going to beat Tennessee. So I really have no problem with that one. But go ahead, sir.
Oh, yeah, no. And I was just saying that I actually expected Ohio State to be in front. But if they're using that strength of schedule and quote-unquote overall body of work, then you can see why Alabama would still be in front of South Carolina and Ole Miss and why Ohio State would be in front of Tennessee. Now, the other point comes in Miami. I also would have preferred a 10-2 Miami in front of the 9-3 SEC teams because at the end of the day, they found a way to win most of the close games. They beat Florida at Florida by a better score than any of the other teams that beat Florida. So that's a point right there where you could come and say, hey, Miami should be in front of them. They have one less loss, and they beat Florida by a higher margin. But if you look at the computer rankings, most of them still have Miami behind those 9-3 SEC teams. Now, I also agree at one point or another, these teams aren't playing head-to-head. They have one less loss, and it's not like they're far behind on computer rankings. So I personally would have given the benefit to Miami as well. So to the point of Becky, as she was saying, they're aligning to have Alabama slip in. I also agree with you that if SMU wins, obviously Alabama is in, right? Mm-hmm. But if Clemson wins by double digits, I think they're going to kick SMU out. Right now, Alabama is just behind SMU on the computer rankings. I'm looking at Massey, which has a lot of different computer rankings, so they're just behind. So I think if SMU loses by double digits, so even if it's just 10, they'll slip in Alabama. But if they go toe-to-toe and they go to the end and Clemson beats SMU by a touchdown, by one score, a field goal, I think that's where SMU gets in, because at that point you can use the argument of not penalizing a team. But I think it won't necessarily take SMU getting killed by like 21 points for them to get kicked out. I think 10 points, 2 touchdowns, and that's going to be their excuse for letting Alabama in, because guess what just happened? South Carolina beat Clemson. And if Clemson beats SMU by over 10 points, well, guess who beat South Carolina? Alabama. That'll give them the excuses to be able to do that if it's like a 10-point game or a 14-point game.
Okay. All right, man. Beautiful call.
All right, thank you.
Beautiful call, sir.
Take care,
Anything else?
No, that was it. Just just it seems like they're whether or not we can argue how they've gone from week to week. It seems like with this one they try to be consistent, maybe consistent with the purpose of having Alabama be the next team in. They've been somewhat consistent, but I also agree. I would have put Miami ahead of them.
Yeah. All right, man. Appreciate the call. Thank you. I mean, look, I'm going to show you guys something that's going to blow your mind. It's going to absolutely blow your mind. First of all, Larry the GM, Greg, you quoted the strength of record. That is the key in their rankings. SMU 9, Alabama 10, South Carolina, Miami 14. Where is the outrage? Because Larry the GM, I said strength of record is one lane of data. I said my eye test somewhat agrees with it, somewhat doesn't. And it doesn't agree with the Alabama. I'm not stuck in a lane. Like, I'm not like the lane that you were talking about, like the strength of schedule. The strength of schedule is just one lane. It's like, I'm not going to determine the rankings based upon one lane. Miami lost their 2 games by 9 points. Alabama they got destroyed by Oklahoma, and it doesn't seem to matter. It doesn't seem to matter. Like, it didn't even happen. Let me show you something. Andre Adelson, once again, ESPN. Once again, so many mixed messages from the committee. A G5 UNLV at 10-2 is ranked higher than a 9-3 Syracuse. Syracuse defeated UNLV. So 10-2 is greater than 9-3 in that case, but 9-3 Alabama greater than 10-2 Miami. It's like Alabama, I'm sorry, but Alabama has 2 losses on their glorious resume that would knock everybody else out. It would. They didn't lose to Oklahoma. We're acting like Oklahoma defeated Alabama by a field goal. Vanderbilt defeated Alabama by a field goal. But we're acting like Alabama lost another close one to another unranked team. They got their doors blown off. Who else got their doors blown off by an unranked team that is listed in the playoffs? Not Miami, not South Carolina. Notre Dame had a very bad loss. They didn't get their doors blown off, but a very bad loss. But they've won all the other games. Alabama got their doors blown off by an unranked team, and they lost to Vanderbilt, and they have a 3rd loss. I cannot fathom nobody else in this country would be sitting there with a chance to make the playoffs with that resume but Alabama. In my opinion. Did Alabama deny your college admission application a long time ago? I'm just telling the truth as how I see it. Look, we had the Alabama-Oklahoma game on. We watched it together. Watch party. Everybody after that game said Alabama was out. Every SEC person in the chat room said Alabama was out. And suddenly, we're going to forget about it. It never happened. It never happened. It never happened. It never happened. I tell you what, not my grandmother. My mother is an Alabama fan. my 91-year-old mother, who's probably listening to me yelling right now, because I take care of her. My 91-year-old mother is an Alabama fan. Listen, you want to talk, you want an example how crazy fandom is? My mother is 91 years old, Irish, black-haired Irish, Catholic. She can't go to church anymore, but we got the mass on the computer. She lays in her bed with a rosary in her hand. That's what she does. Her family is Catholic. I used to sing at the Catholic church for 9.5 years. 2 masses every Sunday. Catholic, Irish Catholic. My mom roots against Notre Dame every single chance, every time she watches them, and she roots for Alabama. So if it's an Alabama-Notre Dame game, in the first round of the playoffs, Maxine Catherine Roney, Irish Roney Flugar is going to be rooting for Alabama. Why? Who knows? That's just how fandom is. She fell in love with Alabama decades ago. And she loved Nick Saban. So that only... Whatever. The phone lines are open. 763-260-133. I can't explain it. I just said I can't explain it. Alabama gets ratings. It is what it is. It's my mother, not my grandmother. I'm too old to have a grandmother. Come on, guys. Come on. Smart lady. Petition to fire Alabama. Of course they're not. Of course they're not. And you know what? The Oklahoma, Northern Illinois, the Northern Illinois is a worse loss. No question about it. But that's the Northern Illinois, Oklahoma is an apples to apples comparison. But there's a lot of other fruit in the basket, the architect. There's a banana, which is Vanderbilt. And then there's a third loss. And then there's Notre Dame crushing everybody. It's almost like Alabama is... I don't want to say anything more about Alabama. There's a lot of other stories here. There's the Boise State versus Arizona State. And I think Boise State is going to come out ahead. If they beat UNLV, they're going to stay ahead of Arizona State. And then, let's say the phone lines are open. The phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. Let's say SMU defeats Clemson. Alabama's in the playoffs. Well, Alabama's going to get that 11th seed then. And Arizona State and Iowa State's going to get that 12th seed. And Indiana's going to get that 10th seed, right? I believe. Whatever. So, the 5th seed, which according to what we just saw, I think the 5th seed was going to be Notre Dame, right? Or who do they have? It doesn't matter. It's going to be Notre Dame versus Alabama or Penn State versus Alabama. Most likely. Give us a call, 763-260-133. And Arizona State, Iowa State is going to be either playing Notre Dame or Penn State. Notre Dame is 6th currently. But then again, you got Penn State. When they lose, how much are they going to, if they lose, how much are they going to punish Penn State? If Oregon lose, they're going to get that 5th spot. It's either Ohio State or Penn State versus Bama. I don't think so. I don't think it can be the Buckeyes, but we'll see. I don't think the Buckeyes are going to get... I think the lowest that Bama can get is 11. I mean, the highest. The highest seed that Bama can get is 11, right? So they're going to be playing the 6. I don't know. We shall see. Give us a call. Open line 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Let me go through some of the reporting here. Dan Hope, Ohio State beat writer. Ward Manuel on ESPN. Those teams who are not playing cannot be adjusted in terms of where they are compared to other teams that are not playing. That effectively confirms Ohio State will be no lower than the 8th seed. So the Buckeyes are going to get a first-round home game at the Shoe. Right? Brandon Marcello, 247. It appears this all comes down to SMU or Alabama for the final playoff spot if Alabama and or Boise State lose in the conference championship game. By the way, I did see a report that Noah Fifita has not officially entered the portal as of now, that he has not made his decision. Okay? Has not made his decision.
Call from
Replica.
Replica, the floor is yours. Let it rip, sir.
Yeah, it's no rhyme, no reason, just like I've been saying this entire time. The standards only apply when they want to justify a decision. Because, again, we're valuing head-to-head for certain teams, and then for some teams we aren't. And then strength of schedule matters for a handful of teams, and the rest of the country it doesn't. And then Boise State is getting treated like a top 10 team when in any other year they'd be in the high teens at best. It's absolutely ridiculous that they're in the top 10 with no quality wins on their schedule. And people will say, oh, well, they went on the road to Oregon and they lost by 3 points, and that has to count for something. It does, and that's why they're in a position to be in the playoffs. But to be in front of teams who play significantly harder schedules throughout all 4 of the power conferences it's ridiculous. And all they're doing is just lighting a fuse to blow up the ACC, because if Miami gets left out, best believe that their administration is going to start taking action, much in the same way Florida State did last year.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is a charade.
We are sitting on a tinderbox. We are, man. If SMU loses a very close game to Clemson,
they're going to screw them.
And if they get out of the playoffs, and if Alabama's in, we are sitting on a tinderbox. I mean, it's going to get explosive.
That's exactly what's about to happen. And that's why they had to put Alabama in the field this week. So this quote that Ward Manuel put out saying that teams that aren't playing can't be adjusted, those teams can't be adjusted, but the teams that are playing this weekend can be adjusted. So if Clemson wins and steals a bid, They're not leaving Alabama out.
And I think what would happen, one of the effects of that happening, if SMU gets kicked out, losing a competitive, let's say it's a competitive loss, okay? I think one of the ramifications of that is these conferences are going to protect their conference championship games. And I think the push for automatic qualifiers is going to be heavy, to where the team that goes to your conference championship game is going to be in the playoffs. So back to the 3-3-2-2 or the 4-4-2-2, however they decided, whatever the SEC and the Big Ten, politically, whatever they can push through, I think without a question of a doubt, we are heading towards an automatic qualifiers for the power conferences, to where both teams in the conference championship game are protected with an auto berth. Replica, go ahead, sir.
I mean, yeah, but isn't that just like a Band-Aid toward the actual problem?
Well, a Band-Aid to where we might have a gushing wound after this Sunday, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can put a Band-Aid over a gushing wound, but the wound's all the way to the white meat. What good is the Band-Aid? Like, if Miami gets left out, you think their administration is just going to sit there and do nothing?
Well, Miami's
already trying to get out.
Yeah. So that's another point, right? That's another point. It's like, you know, we have a situation where two teams, two big football brands, are already suing the ACC, Florida State and Clemson. We have Miami, who's been sitting on the sidelines. In fact, Miami voted for Phillips and the ACC to sue Florida State, to sue Clemson. But we got a new president at Miami since all that happened, and that president is very, very pro sports. I'm not pro sports, but very supportive of collegiate sports at Miami. So we'll see if Miami we'll see what their reaction to all this is. We're going to see it tonight, tomorrow. Replica, you bring up a very good point.
Yeah, I'm worried because I feel like this is going to get so ugly that we may even get to a point where AQs may not even be able to solve this, because one of the saddest parts about all this is that none of the quote-unquote adults in the room want to actually try to come up with an actual system that works. When a team like Florida State gets screwed over, like, well, what's about to happen to Miami? The solution is, just go join another conference. If you join another conference, you can have the same level of favoritism, and you can be able to play this set of rules instead of just coming up with something that's more. I don't want to say fair, because life isn't fair, but it should be something more reasonable. Yeah. Like Alabama just got their doors blown off by the worst Oklahoma team in my lifetime.
Yeah,
and they're gonna get to play in a playoff game.
And it's their third loss. It's their third loss. It's their third loss.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. They're gonna use head-to-head to put Alabama in, so they beat South Carolina, but Ole Miss beat South Carolina by 3 touchdowns. They beat Georgia by almost 3 touchdowns. But Ole Miss is nowhere in this conversation, and neither is BYU. Those are the type of things that I'm talking about. AQs won't solve that issue. It'll just be different teams in a different year.
Yeah.
It'll protect the conference championship, but it won't protect the way we're determining the best teams. It's just the only thing that matters is neutral site mental gymnastics and who would win in my imaginary head, and this team has the X-ranked recruiting class, even though half of those kids are going into the portal, just like Prime said after 1 year. It's ridiculous, but this is the world we live in.
Yeah. All right, man. Anything else, sir?
No, I'm just looking forward to some actual football before the carnage starts on Sunday.
Got it. All right. Appreciate it, Replica. Thank you so much.
That was a good one.
Jim Troy, thanks for coming on in, Jim. Flugar, what bowl is the Gophers headed? Who knows? I mean, it's very complicated. I talked about it earlier in this live show. The Big Ten, I don't care what their protocols are, the Big Ten can jump teams around, whatever benefits their bowl partners. The whole bowl system is going to change drastically for 2026. We got one more year of this after this year when it comes to the Big Ten bowl games. But they could jump teams over Minnesota. Like the question is, where are you going to put Nebraska? Because this is the first bowl game they've been to in 8 years. And so they qualify to go to any bowl. The fan base is going to buy tickets. They're going to go on the airplane. They're going to go spend money. And it's going to help the bowl, the sponsorship of the bowl, whatever bowl that is. Nebraska probably should go to the Pinstripe Bowl. They're 3-6 in conference, 6-6 overall. But they probably will put Nebraska in the Music City Bowl or the Duke Mayo Bowl. And that is going to push the Gophers out. Who knows? There are some projections that have Minnesota versus LSU in the Music City Bowl. There are some projections that have Minnesota versus Louisville, Georgia Tech, or Syracuse in the Mayo Bowl. I have been told that Minnesota is not going to play Syracuse because they have played Syracuse a few times in bowl games, and it's probably not going to happen again for a while. But the answer is I do not know. I wish I did, but I do not know. Now, Illinois is about the only guarantee that they're going to the Citrus. Even Iowa, I have read recently where maybe Iowa isn't going to get that Outback, the Outback Bowl. So we'll see. But Illinois to the Citrus Bowl is basically the only one that is locked in. What I've heard. Anyways. Again, the only system that would work is a one-man committee. The fat guy from Minnesota. That is the only system that would work. In my mind. Not in anybody else's mind. I can tell you that. Jared Jones, if Clemson wins, then Bama is out. I would think so. But I think most people think SMU is in. I'm going to put up a poll here. If SMU loses to Clemson in ACC CCG by 7 points or less, does the Ponies make the playoffs? So basically, this question is, if SMU loses to Clemson in the ACC championship game by 7 points or less, does the Ponies make the playoffs? If you say yes, you're saying SMU's going to the playoffs. If you vote no, you're basically saying Alabama is going to make the playoffs. The voting begins now. So Greg wants a dictatorship. When it comes to deciding who goes to the college football playoffs, Yes. A one-man dictatorship. The Godfather. I decide. Mike Drake says SMU will get in. Steve says yes. Bean says no. We're going to give everybody 5 more seconds to vote. 5 more seconds to vote on the poll. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 59% says yes. 59%, 57% says yes. SMU, the PATC community, has spoken. Phenomenal Hebrew. I don't know why people are assuming that Oregon's going to beat Penn State. That's really a foolish assumption. Penn State could win that game. No question about it. Now, I'm projecting Oregon to win, but Penn State's going to be in it. They're going to be in it. A loss of 7 points shouldn't destroy SMU. It should not. It should not. That would mean that SMU lost to 3 points to a 10-2 BYU team that is rated 18th. That would mean that SMU lost to a 10-3 Clemson by less than 7. Those are their 2 losses. And you got Alabama in the playoffs losing, getting crushed by Oklahoma. Alabama didn't even score a touchdown. They lost to Vanderbilt. You got Alabama ahead of SMU. Boy. Mike Drake, I believe Penn State will win versus Oregon. Okay, they got the college football rankings update here. We're going to post them. And here's the rankings. If you missed it earlier tonight, Oregon 1, Texas 2, Penn State 3, Notre Dame 4. So Notre Dame's going to get the 5th or 6th seed, depending on what they're going to do with the loser of the Big Ten championship game. Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee, SMU's 8, Indiana's 9. Indiana is in the playoffs. Boise State 10, Alabama 11, which basically eliminates Miami, Ole Miss, South Carolina. The winner of Iowa State and Arizona State will go to the playoffs, and then Clemson has an opportunity to go to the playoffs by beating SMU in the ACC championship game. So there it is. There is the rankings. What is SMU's best win? They beat Louisville and they beat Duke. Bimba 7579. SMU will drop out if they lose. And Bama stays in. Well, Bean, I mean, you know, if you're comparing SMU to a perfect resume, they fail. But again, Alabama lost to Oklahoma, and they got crushed. They lost to Vanderbilt. Again, SEC, for whatever reason, do not want to talk about SEC teams. You don't want to talk about it. We talk about everything here at this National College Football YouTube channel. SMU has flaws. But let's not make believe that Alabama did not get crushed by Oklahoma, did not score a touchdown 2 weeks ago. And they lost to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt. Come on. A 3-loss Alabama team that got crushed by Oklahoma and lost to Vanderbilt. You guys are like, of course Alabama deserves to go. Why? Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. Okay, guys, we've been on the air for 2 hours and 16 minutes. We haven't gotten a phone call for a while, so I think we're going to shut it down. I want to thank everybody for joining us here at Peek Around the Corner. There definitely is some disagreement. The SMU Alabama. Now, if SMU defeats Clemson, then Alabama's going to come in, and then we're going to talk Alabama football in that first round. So buckle up, brace for impact. We're going to talk about the Buckeyes versus Tennessee. First round buys. We're going to do it all here at Peek Around the Corner. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the conference championship games. Starts Friday. Bunch of games on Saturday. So we're going to be making our predictions. It's going to be lots of fun. Kerry Gold knows the SEC never has a low. Yeah. I mean, again, that's why you can't just stay in one lane, because strength of schedule, where they're all being ranked, we don't even have to go down that rabbit hole. Same with the Big Ten, by the way. They get the advantage of that as well. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it just doesn't matter. Sometimes it does. The committee will decide. The committee has decided that Alabama is playoff bound if SMU wins the ACC championship game. If SMU loses, we are going to have quite the controversy, no matter which way it goes. You can see it in the PATC chat room. You can see it in our phone calls, and you can see it on social media. We're going to have quite the controversy if Clemson wins the ACC championship game, which, by the way, we're going to be doing a watch party of that game. So please join us. Please join us. Thank you so very much. If you're new to the channel, or if you haven't done it yet, before you leave, subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you've liked our content today. Thank you, Kerry Gold Knowles, for your super chat. I very much appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us. Until next time, which is going to be tomorrow. Until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Please take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.